Okay, now whenever you're replacing a starter, no matter what, you want to isolate the ground on here. Take the ground off and also isolate it. You do not want to hit that against the wheel pan on there. It will arc right through the pan. Alright, thanks. So we're going to take our negative off on here. Loosen it. We'll get it off. I wrap it in a rag and I tuck it. And I also cover the ground here just to be sure. And now we're safe to go down there and change the starter out. Now the starters on these, they're only 3 bolts. They're of course a lot easier in states where there's not corrosion and stuff like that, but the 3rd bolt on here is a real pain. You gotta have the right amount of extensions on here. And it's kind of like trial and error, pretty much, to get that 3rd bolt in there, because there's a large cross-through bolt for the engine mount on there that gets in the way. So it's not so bad on the older trucks, but the newer ones like this, they changed the engine mounts. Okay, so our battery's disconnected and we're safe. So we're going to take off the main power wire first. Usually they're 13 millimeters. And we'll get that out of the way. Now the biggest concern with this is not really, bolts that are too tight or too hard to get to. It's the swing radius. Whenever you're taking off bolts on here for the starter, you may only swing it 10-15 degrees and that's it. So it takes forever to take the bolts out of here. That's the biggest problem with these. And then the S terminal every time is a 10 mil on there. You can see already with the S terminal, get that short swing arc. Get that out of the way. Alright, then over here, the last connection we have is the ground stud over here. And these are usually a 13 millimeter nut and a 15 millimeter for the stud on here. And you're going to want to have a 3/8 or a larger ratchet because they're usually pretty tight or rusted. We'll start pulling the lower bolt right now, and we're actually going to just break torque on it for now. Loosen it out a bit, and we're going to leave it in there. So we have this one loosened. Like I said, just leave it in there. That'll keep the starter from falling on our heads. And then we can take this one right here. This is the next one up. Take that one all the way out, and then there's one even further up in here that I can't even show you. That's the last bolt in there. So it's not too many bolts. It's just, it's really hard to get to anything on here pretty much. Now it seems to work best on here 6-inch extensions like this, and then a standard length socket on the other end. And this can happen, what's happening to me right now. This one's on there so tight, I wouldn't say it's rusted, but it's flexing my extensions too much in the 1/4-inch drive. So I'm going to use a 3/8 drive just to break torque on here. But as you can see, there's just no room in here to do anything. But once you break torque, you're fine. See, once I broke torque on it like that, it didn't flex. We have some room. We're good. And now I can get in here at my 1/4-inch flex head get it out of there a whole heck of a lot faster. And just be ready, because you're probably going to do the same thing to the top one up there. So, like I said, you just need to get, you know, creative with your extensions on here. Like this one, now that the bolt's starting to come out, we're starting to hit the bolt head for the engine mount now. So you got to watch that. You don't want to wedge your tools in there. Kick it out of the way a little bit. I can keep getting it out of here. And there it is. You can see it's not rusted, it's had some corrosion where the aluminum bell housing goes through on there. Alright, I'll try to show you so you can see a little bit better, have a better idea where that third bolt is at on there. Okay, you should be able to see it now. It's buried way up in there, but it's not impossible to get it out. So, okay, so we're going to try the same trick for the top bolt. Get your 3/8 drive ratchet in there to break torque. You can kind of feel with this hand over here. You can feel, make sure it gets all the way on there. Hold it up top, and then get it to the point where it's on nice and square. Like so. Get it as far back as possible, and then we'll try to break torque on it. I was able to get it with my 1/4 inch on that one, which I prefer because I can spin this one a lot faster, being the flex head. Now, one thing I'll do to get the bolt out of there faster up top is it's a little bit hard to grip that 1/4 inch. So I put the 3/8 back up there, just an extension in the socket. I think it's easy to grip that and turn it out by hand much faster. So the bolt is already out actually. And there it is. Get this one out. Now this one, the bottom stud on here was actually 13mm on this particular model year. It's a 2009. So it's either going to be a 13 or a 15 on your model. And you're going to need a deep for this one, because a regular box end really won't fit in here. Not a gear wrench anyway. As you can see, it's not that hard. It's just, it's slow going with the bolts and the long threads. Okay, now the starter is unbolted. So you just grab it, manhandle it a little bit. Ooh. And there it goes. Now this one, it's nice and small, and I was able to come out of there pretty easily, but you can smell it's definitely burnt up inside of there. You just smell it on this one, so it's all burnt up in there. Alright, now going back in, make sure this area right here where the starter mates up doesn't have a bunch of dirt on it. You can see how clean it is right here, and or corrosion. You'll make sure it's all cleaned off so it's nice and flush, and you can start bolting the new starter up on there if you want. You can check the teeth on the flywheel here to make sure there's no damage like that, but besides that, you just start bolting it back up on there. Okay, so we'll just start getting it up in here. I have the one bolt on hand. It's not too heavy or anything. So you can see it can be a pain getting in here and out. This one for some reason just fell right out though. Okay, not too bad, a little wiggling. Get the bottom eyelet in here lined up, and then you could start worrying about the rest of it on there. Now what I do is I put a little bit of anti-seize on the bolts, a real small amount like that, and it'll help ease them to go back into the housing on there. Now these two bottom bolts, you want to get them in and snugged up by hand so it's nice and straight in there. The starter, it's holding it up. And then when you put the top one in there, use an extension, your 3/8 again, same way. And you should be able to put it in all the way by hand. And make this, you know, go a lot faster this way. Spin, spin, spin. Okay, all the bolts are snug by hand. Now we're going to tighten them with our 1/4" ratchet to finish it off. And then with our 3/8. And the reason we keep switching like this is because of the tight clearances in here. Alright, now the starter's all bolted up. Let's get these wires back on here, starting with our ground. Get that onto there. And these connections are pretty clean actually, so we're going to throw them back on here. And if possible, because the threads are the same, you should reuse the original factory bolts, or nuts I mean, as long as they're not too corroded. Got our ground nut on here. Get this one nice and tight. Now what you gotta watch out for with these starter solenoid terminals is they're pretty delicate, so it only takes a low inch-pound amount. I'll get the specs up down below in the video description to tighten these. I tighten them by feel from over the years and the tight access in here. But what you gotta realize is they're not holding the starter on. They're just holding wires on. So just snug them up. And the same thing, especially for the 10 mil down here. Let's get this. Okay. And then don't forget your little protective cover on here. Like so. Everything's tight, secure, and we can go up top, reconnect the battery, and make sure everything's fine. Alright, and the last task we have to do is get these rags out of here and reconnect the negative on the battery. And it's going to be some arcing just like that, some noise, stuff like that. Don't freak out. Unless it's really arcing, then you know you missed a connection or wired it wrong somehow. But it's pretty simple to wire these starters. Get nice and snug. Okay, get this out of here. Now this one smells pretty bad, like it's been burning up inside. You can smell it inside there, it's burnt up. Not so much here, but over here. And that's pretty common if it got all corroded inside of here, the brushes and etc. inside of here, bearings, stuff like that, because of all the mudding and stuff like that. So it can happen. It's only got 70,000 miles on it. When it goes through those kind of conditions, though, it can definitely lock up like this. Okay, moment of truth. Everything's back together. So I gotta get in here and not hit the other car. key here. Scorcher in here. We'll turn the key on for my own benefit. Check, make sure there's no security light. And there isn't. Okay, so we'll just roll down the window here. And we will start it. And I like to try to start it a couple times. You know, some good cranks in there. Really test that new starter. Because a lot of these remans, they aren't done so well, and they may work the first time, but the third time they don't. So you want to check it, make sure it sounds normal. It just cranks solid and continuously instead of you know, like that, like where it's just inconsistent. So perfect.